Hello, thank you for joining me today. My name is Daniel Carlos. I am a senior financial aid counselor at the U of I. I have been here for 6 years, and my primary job responsibilities are to essentially help you with your financial aid. So without further ado, let's get into a screen share here. What we are gonna do today is go over some financial aid topics. And if there's any questions at all, please feel free to send us an email to the U of I's um, financial aid email. And I will post that up in a moment here. Show. Here we go. So here's a wonderful photo of the admin building. And you are at University of Idaho, of course. But today, what are the goals and outcomes? What are we going to be learning today? So today we will learn a few different things. How to accept your aid, about the different loans available to you, how to log into Handshake, what to do when there is a special circumstance, the financial aid timeline, and overall, just know that we are here to support you. So right into the first bit here, loans. I cannot stress enough, loans must be repaid. And they being the federal government, the federal government offers you different levels of loans based on your grade level. So as a first year student, you're limited to a maximum of 5,500 in federal loans so that's through the FAFSA, right? As a sophomore, junior, and senior, that goes up quite a bit there, as you'll note in the second, third, and fourth bullet points. It goes up to 6,500 and 7,500 as a limit. Now, the subsidized loan, it has a subsidy on it. So it's effectively 0% interest, whereas the unsubsidized loan, it does not have a subsidy on it. So there is some interest that accrues on it. And for the current school year, the interest on the unsubsidized loans is accruing at 2.75% interest rate. There's a lifetime limit, and there's a difference there, but depending on whether or not you are a dependent student or an independent student. A little bit higher if you're independent, but by and large, most of us here today are going to be dependent students. So 31,000 is the limit. When you hear about folks getting into like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt through student loans, it's typically because they borrowed private loans or they possibly went to a professional or graduate program that required them to borrow more, such as, going to medical school or dental school or anything like one of those kind of professional programs. Now, when does repayment start? Repayment starts when a student is no longer in at least half-time credits for U of I. That's 6 credits as an undergrad. And so when a student goes below 6 credits as an undergrad, then repayment would start on the schedule that it does. There is a 6-month grace period. And so let's say you go through your studies and then you graduate in May. And so after you graduate, you're clearly no longer enrolled in at least half-time credits, clearly no longer in at least 6 credits, right? And so 6 months from May, which would be about November, that November after you graduate would be when repayment starts. Now the Parent Plus loan, that loan for this year is offered at 5.3%, and it's offered to the parent, directly to the parent. It's based on their own credit, and they are responsible to repay it. It may be for up to the full cost of attendance, so it can range, quite frankly, anywhere from a couple thousand up to the full $21,000 total cost of attendance. But at the end of the day, loans are loans. These must be repaid to the government if you borrow them. So activity, let's log into VanderWeb. We're going to click financial aid, review, accept, decline. So let me get into my VanderWeb and see what we can do here. I need to get out of the screen share. Stop share. Let's move over to this. Start share again. Sorry, thank you for bearing with me here. All right. And I think you can now see what I'm seeing here. All right, so we're gonna go to VandoWeb. So, oops, that's my email. And so how do we accept financial aid? So we would first go to the Financial Aid and Scholarships tab, and then we'd scroll down here to review, accept, decline awards. We want to make sure we select the proper aid year, so 2020, 2021, and then we click on the submit. Now, this is where a lot of folks get hung up. A lot of folks think this is just like a heading for the page, but it is not. It is actually a link. So there's two ways from here you can actually accept your aid, either by clicking on accept award offer over here or review, accept, decline awards here. So let's click on the first link. And then another thing that folks get confused on is they see this and they say, whoa, there is a wall of text here. Where's my financial aid? Scroll down. If you just scroll down, you'll see your financial aid there. And you can accept a partial amount or you can accept the full amount. But you can, let's first note here. So for fall semester, I've been offered, so I'm taking some graduate coursework. And so you see, and I filled out a FAFSA, and so I wanted to know, what am I eligible for? Well, I'm eligible for only the unsubsidized loan as a graduate student. And these are the limits. So the limits for me are a little bit different because I'm a graduate student, but for students in undergrad, they are going to be limited to that matrix that I had showed you earlier. So the amounts here, they're uneven because it's an odd number, right? The fund total, so that's going to be for the year, is $13,997, and for spring it's $6,998, and fall is $6,999. So you can accept the full amount and then click submit decision, or if I wanted to accept a partial amount, let's say I only wanted $1,000, just keep in mind that any amount that you accept here on the partial amount, that will be split up fall, spring. And so if I accept $1,000 here, that's really $500 fall, $500 spring. And then we click submit decision. And now if we scroll down, we'll see the changes that we just made. Fund total, $1,000, spring, 500, fall, 500, and then there's going to be some requirements here that it shows you what requirements you need to do to complete to receive that funding. So let's move back to the presentation. All right, so quick study. Does anyone here know the average interest rate on credit cards right now? Let's figure that out. I know that that is something that we can do. So normally in typical presentation, we'd ask questions: credit card, interest rate. So let's see. So we have a few different credit card interest rates here. They range anywhere from 14 to 25%. That is a big difference there. The main point in showing you this screen here, at least that there's a lot of differences with the credit cards, is because I've had a lot of conversation with families, students, about how to pay for school. And by and large, a lot of folks typically want to charge their education onto a credit card now, and they don't want to borrow the student loans. And I understand that. I understand the stress that it can add. However, what would be more stressful, borrowing a money from a credit card company for, let's say 23.74%, or borrowing a government loan for 2.7%. This is nearly 10 times. It literally costs you 10 times the amount to use a credit card. If you can't pay it off on time and you just let it stay on the credit card, it will accrue interest 10 times faster than if you borrowed the loan. And I have explained this to many folks, and some folks, they understand that difference, and they are super happy that we took the time to explain this with them, because a lot of times, we're very busy. But this is one of the things that we really, really, really like to hammer home, is that, like, credit cards, though useful if you can't pay it off on time and you have a revolving balance, it a lot of times will cost you far more than if you had just borrowed the student loan to help pay for your education. Let's go back here to the presentation. So we know right now, how much is an interest rate on a credit card right now? It can range, but typically for new borrowers, it's on the high side, and it's about 23%. So what is that per year for $2,000? Well, at 23%, $2,000 times 0.23, that's $460 in interest for a year. And this is just like a basic calculation. It's not like an actual amount of what you would owe. Versus if you were to take out one of the loans, so what's $2,000 times 0.0275? $55. So the difference between if you used a credit card and you left the balance on there versus if you borrowed a student loan, it costs you $400 more to pay for it with your credit card, and then let the balance revolve on your credit card. So clearly, if we're comparing the two, unsubsidized loan and a credit card, the smarter choice, it hands down, is the unsubsidized loan, because of that that difference, that disparity in the interest rates. So moving on to student employment. So work-study funding is limited. It must be, so your FAFSA must be completed by December 1st in order to be considered for priority for work study. The maximum award at U of I is $2,000. So 16 weeks per semester, you have the potential to earn approximately $1,000 per semester. And if you don't earn quite exactly $1,000 in one semester, it would roll over to spring. But if you don't earn it all in spring, then you just didn't earn any of it. And so you just want to make sure, well, not any of it, but all of it, I should say. One of the things that I highly, highly, highly recommend is to choose a job that has relevance to the major and career interest in your field. For myself, when I was a work study student, I had a job in the financial aid office, and I have turned that experience in work study into a career. And so for yourself, if you're in like the sciences, think about maybe like a lab assistant work study, or if you are wanting to enter education, think about some tutoring work study opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities out there. You'd go on to Handshake to find some of those jobs, and you'd submit your application. And once you do, you want to make sure that you follow up with the folks in charge of that hiring, of making that hiring decision, just to have a good impression so that you can get hired. Now, the biggest benefit to work study is that you are a student first. So your employers understand that you have classes and you have finals and you have, there's dead week and there's a lot of different things about being a student. So as a result, tend to be a little more lenient on scheduling. And then new for this year, which some of you may not be aware of, but Handshake is this UIdaho tool that you log on to. So it's like it is a website. I think there's also an app. but Handshake is the primary tool where you would go out, find a job for work study, filter out by work study, and by University of Idaho. And now a lot of students too will say, well, $2,000 per year is great. I want to earn more. So there's also off-campus employment where you could earn more than $1,000 per semester or $2,000 for the year. However, off-campus employers may not be as flexible with student priorities. So just be aware of that. You know, if you're scheduled, then you're scheduled. And a lot of times, you know, there's no adjusting that. Now, the trade-off is many businesses in town also offer employee scholarships. And so there's a few different scholarships in town that I've been aware of just by working with students who have been offered them. I know SEL, there's a student that I worked with a couple weeks back who had a scholarship from SEL, which is pretty neat. All right, so this is something that I cannot do because I don't have work study on my financial aid. But if you have a moment here, you know, pause or take a screen capture of this page, of this screen, or take a photo of it with your phone. But at some point, I'd like you to log into Handshake. If you have work study, log into Handshake, check out click on the current students link so you can log in. Filter University of Idaho. Select the work study filter if it is active. Now I say if it is active because it might take up to a week after you accept work study to have it show up as active, which would allow you to see the work study jobs. And then if you have work study, apply to my job posting. Yeah, so I have a job posting on Handshake right now as well. So if you have work study, then apply to the posting, and hopefully we can be in contact. If you have any questions at all, though, definitely just reach out to us. Our email is listed there on the screen. So either take a screen capture of this or take a photo of this page because of that contact at the bottom of the page there where it says finade-workstudy@uidaho.edu. That's finade-workstudy@uidaho.edu. So student financial aid services, that is our office. What do we do? So we assist students with appeals, FAFSA errors, verification, and a lot more. We help explain available options in special circumstances, and we do that primarily based on an alphabet of that's broken up. So as you see here, each student is assigned a financial aid counselor by last name. So if your last name if your last name is Carlos, like mine, then I would fall into Maggie Cafferty's part of the alphabet, and I would email Maggie c@uidaho.edu for any questions that I might have about my financial aid or appeal or errors or verification or pretty much anything financial aid related. Then there's F through K last names. Derek Moore is a contact, derekm@uidaho.edu. L through Q last names, Alex Lowe, alexandria@uidaho.edu. She got a really cool email. She got to use her whole name, which I'm very jealous of. And Daniel Carlos, so I cover last names R through Z. And so if you have any questions, just email me, dcarlos@uidaho.edu. So take a screen capture of this page or take a photo of it with your phone or something, because these contacts are invaluable to you, really, or super valuable to you. It's just, you want to be able to know that you have somebody to reach out to. These are the folks that you can reach out to. Now, if you have a scholarship specific question, you want to email Stephanie Perez. It's stephaniep@uidaho.edu. When I say scholarship question, it's not necessarily like, oh, like how do I get more scholarships? Granted, that is a valid question, but Stephanie primarily deals with, let's say, if a department had promised you a scholarship and you haven't quite seen it yet on your account, you can reach out to Stephanie because she works with departments to post scholarships. So the way that scholarships work at U of I is there's a general Go Idaho and the WUI funds. And those are all applied essentially automatically. But there are some specific scholarships that Stephanie has to apply based on a request or a nomination from a department or college. And so Stephanie doesn't necessarily have a say in that process, but what she does do is she confirms that the students at the college department, whoever on campus is nominating the student, that student is eligible. Now, I always think it's a good idea to have more than one person on an email so that you can have some more eyes on it. So if you ever email one of us, it's always a good idea to also use a CC function on the email to attach finade@uidaho.edu. So, normally in the to field will just be like what you type in. Let's say in the to field, you type in meggyc@uidaho.edu. Usually right below that, there's like a CC or a BCC. I believe the CC stands for carbon copy, which essentially means that you're sending the exact same email to this other person. And so you'd want to CC finade@uidaho.edu or vice versa. Send it to finade@uidaho and then CC Meggy or Derek, whoever your counselor is. It's just always good to have more folks on that email. Now, please allow time for response. I've received phone calls when I've been on the phone where somebody sends in an email about literally 5 minutes beforehand, and then they call in and they're expecting a response. Yeah, that is super appreciated for the follow-up, but it doesn't give us a chance to respond. And so typically, I think we're looking at like a 24 to 48 hour business time follow-up. So if you send an email on Friday and then you sent an email on Monday at 7 a.m. asking why nobody's responded, well, that's because nobody was in the office over the weekend and nobody is in the office yet at 7 a.m. So just keep in mind that we need some time to respond during our business hours. The main office line is 208-885-6312, and we have a limited number of phone lines. So sometimes there may be trouble getting through when it's like during startup. But during the typical year, like now, we still have a lot of work to do, but on the customer service side with the phone numbers, the phone lines have kind of cleared up quite a bit. Now, appeals. In 2018, did you or your parent have more income than your parent has now? Has COVID reduced you and your parents' income significantly? Has anyone in your household experienced extraordinary medical bills within the past 12 months? As you can see, these are kind of questions that are really hindered on what is the parental income or student income now compared to what it was in 2018. Is it drastically reduced? Like let's say this next one here, do you normally work summers but were unable to due to COVID? I know plenty of students who were impacted by this. They typically save a lot during the summer, but they couldn't do that this year. So the main point of this page here is just to kind of show you, kind of illuminate what type of appeals we can look at. And if one of these things is applicable to you, or maybe it's not even on this list, maybe it's something else that you think, nobody wants to hear about this or nobody wants to know about this. We actually do because it might change some of your financial aid. So if there's any kind of different housing situation or any kind of, like let's say here, were you married in 2018 but are now separated or divorced? We had a student recently who had completed their FAFSA in this manner, but not in that way, but they should have, and now they're receiving more money because in 2018 they were married and the income was based off of them and their spouse, but now they're not, and now they're a full-time student, so now they have no income. And so these are just kind of the different ways that we can help. Were you employed full-time in 2018 but are now attending school? That's another valid appeal request. Were parents married in 2018 but now separated, divorced? Have you hit the limit on your cost of attendance? That's something that that usually might occur because of scholarships, and you typically would know that already. do you need more loan money due to your parents' inability to borrow the PLUS loan? There's some additional appeal help there. Essentially, if any of this applies to you, or anything else that's not listed here that you think you just have a question on, reach out to us. Reach out to your financial aid counselor. Reach out to the finaid@uidaho.edu email. Give us a call. Just try and contact us. Get a connection with us so that we can see how we can best help you. All right, so if you believe you have a special circumstance that is not being accounted for on the FAFSA, email your counselor right now. So again, we have a former counselor here for the F through K section. So I'll just go back here to, here we go. So if you do have a situation you think is a special circumstance right now, but it wasn't accounted for in those appeals, email one of us. Email Maggie, Derek, Alex, or myself. Email the FNAID account. So again, either take a screenshot here or take a photo of this and then send us an email with the contact info that you have. So financial aid timeline. So on October 1st, that's typically when the 2021-2022 FAFSA opens, and there's up to $6,345 in grant money typically available. For Idaho residents, October 1st is also usually when the state scholarships open up again. And so you'd want to reapply for state scholarships if you haven't already, then you'd want to apply for them. But there's like the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship, which provides you $3,500 in funds at the U of I for eligible students. December 1st, by December 1st, you should have already filled out your FAFSA. And if you get state scholarships, you want to gotten that completed as well. Priority for work study is December 1st. So you want to make sure that you got your FAFSA in by then if you'd like to be considered for work study. In early spring, we send out award offers and notify for verification. What does that mean? So award offers, that'd be like your offer letter in VanderWeb, how we went to go and accept your offers. And we also notify for verification. So sometimes a FAFSA comes through and we need more information. Let's say, you entered your tax information, your parent entered your tax information, everything looked good on your end. But when it was sent to the FAFSA or sent through, submitted, the Department of Education, they have the authority to select students for verification, this process, where essentially they force us or make us complete a verification of the information that was provided. So if you entered tax info, then we'd have to verify your tax info. So then we'd ask for your tax information so that we can verify that. And it can be a tedious process. It can also be very easy. It just depends on the information that you have available to you. So then in early spring, the biggest question you'd want to ask yourself is, did I receive an award offer? If you have, great. Log into VanderWeb to review the requirements for the award and accept it. If you have not, then you'd still want to log into VanderWeb because there might be some additional requirements, like what maybe you were selected for verification and you have to upload documents. Luckily, we're able to upload all of our verification documents into VanderWeb now. So there is a pretty good an easy way to get your verification documents to us. In February, scholarship committees get together and they start nominating students for scholarships for the following award year. They work primarily with Stephanie and Lori to get that done. Lori is our Associate Director for Scholarships. By March 1st, if you're an Idaho resident, you should have applied for the Idaho Opportunity Scholarship, mostly because it's renewable and it's for so much. It's $3,500. It's a lot of money. If you're eligible, apply for it. If you're not eligible, apply for it. You should just apply for it and hope to get it because it's just so much, and sometimes they're able to award a larger number of students than they expect. And for ongoing students who this is applicable for, ongoing residents of Idaho is a post-secondary credit scholarship. If you have completed at least 10 college credits upon graduation, reach out to one of your counselors. I'll go back to that screen here because our state, the state of Idaho, they offer additional assistance to students who have had at least 10 college credits completed upon their high school graduation. And if they're also able to get like a scholarship from, like, let's say Micron or Simplot, the state might be able to match that money. All right, so we are just rolling on through here. So what did we learn today? Well, you learned how to accept your financial aid, about the different loans available to you, how to log into Handshake, it's kind of difficult through this recorded session, but if you go to the U Idaho website and visit the Handshake page and log in, it really, there's nothing to it. It's like logging into VandaWeb, quite frankly. What to do when there is a special circumstance. And so what do? You reach out to us. Please, please, please reach out to us. If there's a special circumstance or an appeal, we want to talk to you about that. The financial aid timeline, that's another thing that we learned about today. You want to make sure you fill out your FAFSA as early as October 1st and make sure that you get it submitted by December 1st so you can consider it for work study. And also for the Idaho Opportunity Deadline, which is in March. And I hope that you learned today that we are definitely here to support you. We want you to succeed, and we work best when we know more information, and the only way we can find out information is if you tell us. So please, please, please visit us, email us, give us a phone call. I guess nowadays it would be more phone call and email, but we are definitely here to support you, and we want to help. So a couple last things to remember. If you do complete at least 15 credits per semester, you essentially can graduate on time. Of course, you'd want to make sure that you discuss with an academic advisor if you have multiple majors. But the biggest thing to remember is you want to take at least 15 credits per semester if you can. I understand that sometimes you can't. I certainly couldn't when I first started. Another thing is the FAFSA is free. Not necessarily something that we mentioned today, but it is free. It has always been free. It will likely always be free. So don't pay somebody to do your FAFSA. Grants and scholarships are also free. So you don't have to repay that money. That money is just, it's free as long as you are using it towards school, right? Look at loans after all other resources. So again, credit cards versus loans. These loans that you're offered from the federal government, likely a lot better. And sometimes some folks need loans like beyond that because the government does limit how much you can borrow. And so in those cases, look at private loans after that. And that would be one of the last resorts that you'd want to look at because they also have a little bit higher interest rates, but not anywhere near as high as credit cards. Private loans, I've seen some interest rates anywhere from 7 to 14%. Credit cards are still way beyond that at like 14 to 25%. It's crazy. Some loans are better than others, you know, federal versus private, but sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you just need to borrow a private loan. And there's no shame in that. It's how we get through school. I couldn't have gone through school if it wasn't for loans. And so, yeah, sometimes you just need to borrow a loan. Are your scholarships renewable and for how long? That's a good question. You want to make sure that you know how long your scholarships are renewable for, if they are or if they are not. So Idaho Opportunity, that's a renewable scholarship. Go Idaho, that's a renewable scholarship. WUI, that's a renewable scholarship. If you received a scholarship from your high school, that's likely not a renewable scholarship. It's probably a one-time scholarship. You want to know which ones are renewable and which ones are not, mostly because you want to know how to renew it. So Go Idaho, WUI, those are essentially automatic as long as you meet the criteria. And something like Idaho Opportunity, that one you must reapply for it every single year. Along with your FAFSA, you need to make sure you complete a FAFSA every year. And of course, when in doubt, if at all, if you have any questions, please contact our staff. Email works best right now because we have a record of in the order received, who called and what the call, or who emailed and what the email was about. And we are usually pretty on top of that. Like right now, I believe there are very few emails in there, if any. We have folks on it 24, well, not 24/7, but essentially at all hours of the business day. So we have a lot of help in there, trying to get emails answered as quick as possible. So thank you very much for hanging around and listening to and watching this Zoom recorded session. Again, our contact info for the office is 208-885-6312, 208-885-6312, and our email is fanade@uidaho.edu. So if you have any questions at all, please give us a call or send us an email. Again, thank you very much for your time, and you have a great day. Bye-bye.